Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. In today's video, Anthony Power and I are joined by the CEO, Sam Tabar of BitDigital. This is a company that's been receiving a lot of attention recently on the backs of their HPC and AI announcement. But in addition to that, there's a lot more under the hood in terms of Ethereum staking and self-mining on the Bitcoin front. Now we want to get into that all in today's video, but before we do, please take a second, smash the like button, you guys. It's a big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of BitDigital, your outlook for the back half of the year, and how you think they're positioned compared to their peers. Now with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we've got Sam Tabar back from BitDigital. This company has been receiving a ton of attention, both from the retail and investment or Wall Street type community, really on the backs of a lot of the HPC AI interest we're seeing in this sector. Now, Sam, you were definitely first out of the gate with this, announcing that big contract. You now announced the expected increase or upsizing of that contract. So we've got a lot to go through today. But before we do, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's always a joy to talk with you guys.
Of course, you're welcome anytime. So first things first, it's been a little while, probably over a month since our last chat. Can you give us just a quick lay of the land in terms of key developments or changes since you were on last?
So look, recent developments from our last chat, we finalized an agreement with our AI customer to supply an additional 2,048 GPUs over a 3-year locked term. The expected delivery of that is in July, and we intend to deploy that in August of this year. So that means we have a total of 4,996 GPUs, and the total revenue of that contract locked is $275 million or $92 million on an annualized basis. We draw the cash every single month. We provide transparency on that in our monthly production report. And that significantly contributes to about $100 million of revenue run rate goal. That we're basically at 92% of our goal that I had said in our last call. My goal was $100 million by the end of the year. We're already at 92% of that, and it's June 28th. So, there's stuff in the pipeline that's going to be announced on that. So margins are still substantial and slightly reduced relative to the first tranche of the contract, but really still great fat margins, which I'm really happy about.
Are you still I mean, we talked about last time, before we realized the margins, and you were indicating about where the Bitcoin price would need to be to catch up with that. Are you still in that sort of ballpark there now where it'd have to be over?
I get this question all the time. Okay, so I get this question plenty, and it's a little bit hard to give a pinpoint number, not because I'm trying to be shady, but because there's an intersection between hash rate difficulty and Bitcoin price, and that is the two variables that you need in order to figure out where the number needs to be in order for it to even approach the margins of the HPC business. But if you had to put a gun to my head and I had to give you a number, and you would to pull the trigger, if I did not give you a number of where Bitcoin needs to be in order to even approach the margins of this business, it would have to be at least double where Bitcoin is today.
Yeah, we've talked to a few people about that, Sam. We've heard anywhere from 100,000, 110, 113, so all kind of in that range, substantially more than where we're at now. So as a continuation of that, seeing that as the demand for HPC, the margins for HPC, the interest for HPC is so insatiable right now. Can you give us a quick update from BitDigital's perspective on your HPC strategy, the amount of interest you're seeing, the type of clients that are calling, and just kind of an overview of that situation?
Yeah, so our advantage is that we offer tailored solutions to meet our clients' demand. We don't have this cookie cutter approach like the hyperscalers do. So that's why we have that advantage. We doubled the size of the GPU fleet currently. The contract speaks to the client's satisfaction. We have a very pregnant pipeline of potential customers, and I am looking forward to announcing those new customers in the near term. But I do believe our current model is very effective, but I do think owning our own HPC, our own HPC data center could help expand our offerings. And I know that I feel like the capital markets ding us for not owning our own data center. Frankly, it has been an advantage so far because we're able to offer tailored solutions to our clients. And if I had, for example, a data center in the US for this client and for clients 2 and 3, for example, we wouldn't be able to win that business because they had specific requirements as to where the data centers could be. But the capital markets don't understand that nuance. And, at the same time, there are data centers that we're looking at, and there's one specifically that we're in serious talks with, in which it could, I would be interested in vertically integrating the HPC offering. That would make sense. The thing is, I just don't want to buy a data center for the sexy headline and pump the stock. That's really not what I want to do. And I'm only going to do something when it makes mathematical sense.
Listening to one of your competitors, and when they announced their partner, it sort of blew the market wide open. And the way they'd gone about doing that contract, is that type of contract something that appeals to you, in the fact that, if you can get a provider or a customer who can put the capital up front to help you develop a site, is that something that you'd be interested in that way? And then you just repay that back over the first few years, and then really you're into, really great profits for the remainder of the contract.
Yeah, look, our specialty is offering customized solutions. So the client comes first, not the data center. The client comes first. That's our North Star, and then everything else follows. So if the client has that wish, we could work with them on that.
It's interesting you bring up the geographic importance of these data centers as well, Sam, because we've heard a number of CEOs now saying, yeah, specifically for government related information or very sensitive data, they want that stuff onshored in the European Union or in the United States or in Canada,
right.
or whatever the case is. So
That's
very
right.
interesting. And you're right. If you own the infrastructure, you're essentially handcuffed to what type of clients you can get, eh?
That's exactly right. And people don't understand that. And that's why the infrastructure nimble approach has served us very well. But at the same time, I think a hybrid approach to owning your own data center, and at the same time offering a nimble approach to make sure that the customer gets what it needs. That's the best of both worlds. Have your own data center and have that nimble approach. If you're married to one or the other, I don't think that's optimal.
Yeah, it
With
seems
your sites in Iceland at the moment, and you're going to be obviously increasing that to nearly double what you've got at the moment capacity. How much more room is there to develop for further clients, or would you have to look in other locations?
Yeah, so we have about 2.5 megawatts currently in Iceland. We have another 2.5 for this second phase. That's a total of 5 megawatts. Understand 5 megawatts in Bitcoin mining world seems like a little bit. You have to 10x that.
Yeah.
Because 1 megawatt is 10 times more in terms of revenue compared to Bitcoin mining. That's why this is a very interesting field for us. 10 times more revenue per megawatt compared to Bitcoin mining. So that's important. So yeah, look, we're good for 516 servers with eight GPUs each for that particular site. And with respect to future clients, we already have that arranged with other data centers. We run a process concurrently of getting to understand what the client's needs are, and then we use and tap into our network of data centers in order to connect the dots, in order to match what that client needs. There's a lot of geographical restrictions sometimes of certain kinds of data centers. And so that nimble approach has been very that has unleashed us to offer these customized solutions that would not otherwise have been available if we're hamstrung.
Makes sense. Now, in terms of the facility in Iceland, we just got back from obviously our Texas road trip there, and
I
heat
saw that.
management was a great time.
Yeah,
Obviously
yeah,
quite hot for us Canadians, but it was definitely managing heat was a key theme that we saw both at the immersion site, at the air cooled, whether they're talking HPC or Bitcoin mining. Never being to Iceland, what is the climate, the operational benefit of being in that location as opposed to some of these hotter climates?
well, machines love cold and clean places that don't have very much dust. Iceland is perfect for that. Texas is the opposite of that. It's hot and it's dusty. So you have to recreate Icelandic conditions inside buildings in order for the machines to run well and run long. So we don't have to recreate Icelandic conditions in Iceland because Iceland has those conditions naturally.
So you're seeing better performance and longevity of the machines then, or?
Yeah, so for accounting purposes, we write off the value after 3 years, but the reality is that they're going to have residual value up to probably 5 years or more because in Iceland, these machines last much longer because of the natural environment.
And what's the political landscape in Iceland currently with regards to the power usage for high performance computing and obviously Bitcoin mining?
Sorry, what's the question, Anthony?
The
Should that again?
political landscape in Iceland with
Oh, the
regards
political
to
landscape
data
for
centers for Bitcoin mining and high performance computing.
total big difference between like the political. There's no political issues with respect to HPC versus Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining opens up a can of worms politically in any country, and when it comes to HPC, there are no political issues. That's as simple as it gets, which is nice. It's really nice to not deal with the politics on the HPC side because it consumed calories and time that I wanted to focus on business instead of defending. It gets tiresome to defend uh, and repeat and just deal with frankly dumb questions from politicians. I shouldn't say that publicly, but there I said it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you caught the debate or not last night, Sam, but there's definitely some questions going on there.
Yeah.
Now, moving along from the politics and actually focusing on the Bitcoin mining,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about the HPC, but obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum is a staple to your company and one of the many ways you generate revenue. Can we get an update on the self-mining hash rate and where you're seeing the developments in terms of the Bitcoin mining side of the business?
Yeah, I mean, look, we told the markets that we will get to six exahash by the end of the year. While we continue to evaluate the post-halving environment in the Bitcoin mining landscape, the goal remains to get to 6.0 exahash. That is intact. We are actively engaged in discussions, both for incremental hosting opportunities that we should be announcing soon, and and we've always said that our 2024 growth would be on the back end. So that is still in play. That's still intact. We have several, bolt-on growth moves that will happen in the near term. But here is the thing. HPC is just right now a much better economic proposition for us. That could change. If Bitcoin shoots up, then yes, we will be more aggressive on expanding and reaching our goal in by the end of the year. But it would be stupid for us to not take on the HPC business because the margins are just so much better right now than Bitcoin mining. And I understand the fetish that people have, particularly in the retail community, about exahash growth. But if the margins are so much better in HPC, this is the time to plant the flag and get the business. I wouldn't, it wouldn't be responsible for me to say no to these incredible business opportunities and to lock them down for years just because the capital markets has this irrational fetish about exahash growth.
I think the analogy you could use there is like go back a few years ago and when some of the Bitcoin miners pivoted towards Ethereum mining, because at that point in time it was massively more profitable to do that, but people had an idea that the fault was going to occur, and it kept getting delayed, and the likes of two of your peer companies were just building up their GPUs because it was bringing in like 95% margins. And I get this impression now listening to you and explain about the HPC margins compared to the current, say, the mining margins. But Bit Digital it's a Bitcoin mining company, and that's developed obviously into the HPC space. I mean, would you say now that you'll take every sort of like decision based on a return of investment going forward as the market?
Absolutely. I make decisions based on returns, not based on trends.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of trends, with all this HPC phenomenon going on right now, do you see more companies in the Bitcoin traditional space continuing to push their megawatts towards HPC allocation? And does that present any sort of competition or issues with clients? Based on what we've heard, it's so much demand, it's a drop in the bucket, but I just wanted to check with you.
Well, I mean, a lot of companies have been, announcing aspirational statements, and some of them are coming to fruition. We've seen some big announcements recently. Um, you know, I, I think a lot of companies are posturing to the markets to make it seem like they'll be building out this HPC capacity, but these same companies have huge exahash growth targets. So I'm really having a hard time understanding how both can be accomplished at the same time. Ultimately, I don't believe the CoreWeave deal with Core Scientific is something that can be easily replicated at that scale again. This is a business that is ultimately easier said than done. Execution is something that I think for Bit Digital, execution is something that really sets us apart versus our competitors. And I'm not floating a pipe dream to the market to pump the stock. I'm showing execution. I'm actually showing locked multi-year fat margin contracts, and I will continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're the first miner to land the big client, and actually, I've been looking at mining updates the last 3 to 4 years since I've been in this space, and you're the first one to start putting in monthly updates about your non-Bitcoin mining in terms of the revenues. We always get, a lot of the miners are diversified and have other businesses, and you're a prime example of that. And some of your peers are exactly the same, and they'll talk about what's happening in that space, but they'll never put the revenues there, and hence why. From my position, I've just focused on the self mining. I've now got to adapt now and start speaking to miners to say, look, you're more than a self miner. We need to have a more, a sort of like an update that covers everything. And that's what we're looking to achieve as well. So kudos to you guys there. I mean, the CoreWeave deal's signed, but it's not delivering anything at the moment, and it won't till like towards. Middle of next year when the construction's finished, and the revenues will start coming in then. But the question will be is now that deal is literally public knowledge in terms of the margins. I mean, you can only see things going down from there because everyone knows the expectation now, and you'll get people going, well, we could have done it a little bit less than that, maybe. It's like, how do you sort of people retain that level of margin? And we're talking big numbers. This is not insignificant, and and interestingly, that most the companies that we spoke to, like yourselves, still Bitcoin mining, and you still got to have the focus on that because, as you say, the Bitcoin mining price or the hash price will eventually get to where it needs to be, then start bringing in a good return from that there if all the lines done up. But you're quite right to articulate. We've got certainty on one side and uncertainty on the other side, and I like to stick with the certainty. in terms of what's way going forward.
Yeah. I've found generally in life, it's not good to live at the extremes. You want to be somewhere in the middle and have that balance. And it sounds like that's what you guys are trying to do there as well, Sam. Now, another way you've thrown some balance or diversification in is the Ethereum position, hodl, and staking activity. Just wanted to get an update there on your sense or strategy with the emerging ETF coming into play, potentially the emerging Solana ETF, if that changes any strategy on the Ethereum side.
Well, yeah, I've mentioned this on X, and I'm not sure if people are hearing it really, but the upcoming ETFs is two things are going to happen. It's going to create, probably 10 billion or more of inflow in the market cap of Ethereum. So the market cap structurally is going to grow. And we're sitting on about 100 million of ETH. No one else is doing that. Nobody else is doing that. And we're staking our ETH. The ETH ETFs can't even stake their ETH. And so, I mean, eventually the capital markets are going to catch up. I telegraphed very clearly that this second tranche, going back to the HPC side, I telegraphed very clearly to the markets that this second tranche is happening. It was a bit surprising to me in a way that when I announced the finalization of the terms that the market seemed surprised. And so I'm telegraphing again clearly, we are sitting on a massive amount of ETH. The ETH ETFs are about to be launched. They're going to create inflows into the Ethereum market cap. These ETH ETFs cannot stake. We can. I don't know how clear I can be to the capital markets. And, it's going to happen again. It's going to be crickets as usual. And then suddenly someone's going to find out, or some catalyst is going to happen. And then, so.
Did you say you're going to affect sort of the micro strategy of Ethereum then?
A lot of people have been saying that, and there's a good reason why.
It's a good analogy. Yeah.
It's the same playbook.
Yeah.
I actually had a chance to talk to Michael Saylor in Prague a few weeks ago, and
saw the photograph.
Oh yeah, that's right. And it's the same playbook. I'm not gonna pretend I was the original guy to it. Michael Saylor was my inspiration in doing this. And eventually people will see that we've developed a MicroStrategy-esque playbook on Ethereum.
Yeah, really interesting. And we both saw that picture. That's a huge accomplishment, getting to meet and visit with him. Hopefully we can do that as well at some point. Now, speaking of kind of future growth or future strategy and positioning of the company, last time we had chatted, Sam, you had expressed some frustration with share price, exactly what you just alluded to, a lot of things coming and really not a lot developing in terms of market cap share price. Now we have seen a move in that. Last time you had said if that continued, you may look to even spin off part of the business or separate the different business units. Is that still on the table at all, or are you feeling now you're starting to get some of the recognition you deserve?
Well, we're still undervalued. Everybody says that. Every analyst says that. The institutions say that. I speak with institutions all day, every day. I think I've had about 20 meetings over the past 2 days with institutions, and they all understand that we're still undervalued despite the run up. But the issue is that you have this multiple for Bitcoin mining, and then you have this multiple for the HPC business, right? And they're completely out of whack, and we're under the same corporate shell. And the institutions don't necessarily want to. They have taken a bite. They are on the cap table, but we'd have even way more institutions buying our stock if the digital asset business wasn't necessarily there. Because they are more interested in HPC business. Why? Because it's a very institutional play. They have clear visibility on how much money the company is making. They can model it out. It's not speculative, and the margins are incredible. And the sales growth is there. So, there is this tension, and then the guys on not the guys and women on X, they're like, oh, exahash growth, what are you doing? HPC is a distraction. I'm not hearing that so much anymore, which is interesting, but it's there is this tension between what the retail crowd wants and what the institution wants, and so if we don't get the full value evaluation of, because we're still super undervalued. No matter what metric you use, we're super undervalued. And that's what we believe, and that's what the analysts say. And so, if we don't get that full value, we're going to have to do, perhaps a spin-off to separate the businesses. We'll see. We'll see.
So just taking that a stage further then, I mean, you said you've had like obviously 20 meetings last few days.
Yep.
Just from a sort of like the types of questions they're answering, how would you say, in percentage terms, the number of questions towards HPC versus Bitcoin?
90% HPC, 95%.
This is just a confirmation.
I think at least 70% of those meetings, the Bitcoin mining business didn't even come up.
This is our we were down in Dallas, and we went to the flagship site for Core Scientific, and out of the 50 questions asked, there was 48 on HPC.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just and we were on the coach of these analysts, and it was just that their interest is HPC, and you're quite right, it's predictable. You can now forecast everything down to profit. You can forecast profit on HPC because you've got a contract.
Right.
So not to say anything wrong with the Bitcoin mining, and you still got four.
There's nothing wrong with Bitcoin mining, and if Bitcoin goes up to 200,000, then all bets are off.
We're having a different conversation. Yeah.
Right. We'll have a different conversation. But if Bitcoin is at 60,000, I'm seeing these fat margin business that we can have on a multi-year lockup. I'm not going to say no. Look,
what do you think from a time position? I mean, from your belief, and you're providing this service, do you see the longevity in HPC? I mean, some people are saying it could be, they said this about the internet, to be honest with you. They said it about mobile phones. They're still around. The internet's still around. Are you seeing the longevity in HPC as well with AI, and the fact that, the likes of ChatGPT is an example of AI that people are, hundreds of millions of people have adopted that in the first few weeks it was announced. It was crazy numbers.
Anthony, I got to cut you off a little bit. I have zero time for people who think that AI is a fad. I have zero time for it at this point. I'm not. If they could just take a long walk off a short pier at this point. AI is not a fad, and end of story. It's going to change it. It's going to change every single sector in our lives. But look, Bitcoin mining is still, I believe in technologies like transformational technologies. Bitcoin is a transformational technology. AI is a transformational technology. And I know it's going to be hard to stomach for certain Bitcoin maxis, but Ethereum is a transformational technology. It has the ability to rewrite the entire financial system because it has a smart contracts ability. The if-then statements don't exist with Bitcoin. Bitcoin replaces gold. I've said this in the past. Bitcoin's competitor is not Ethereum, it's the gold markets. And Ethereum's competitor are the banks. And so that is how I look at it. I know I'm right, but I think it'll take some time for people to just get off their high horse and their tribalism and see these technologies for what they are.
Well, and that flexibility and mindset, Sam, that's, I think, what attracts so many people to this investment. You talk about that 6 exahash goal, but at the point that was made, this HPC situation wasn't as developed it is now. So the fact that you guys are able to adjust on the fly, you're agile, I think that asset light model really enables that agility on the HPC side. You're right, it would be irresponsible to stick with old decisions that were made on old data if you have new information available, eh?
That's you said it more eloquently than I could have said it.
Yeah, no, listening to that, and that's a theme we've heard from you a lot is, hey, you're looking out for shareholder returns, whatever that means at the time is what you're going to pursue, right? So
I
really
think
interesting.
I think like time is I think time is my friend. With time, people will get it. Um, but I don't there were I recall just getting a lot of hate when I made those decisions because they weren't trendy and popular at the time. But I know that if I make a rational economic decision, even though if it's unpopular now, it'll be popular later. And that thesis is is bearing out, and it's going to continue to bear out with HPC. It's going to continue to bear out with Ethereum.
Now, speaking of continuation, we've talked about a lot of recent developments, recent excitement in the share price. In terms of upcoming catalysts, events, things to watch out for, what should the Bit Digital crew be watching for here?
Yeah, I'm super excited by it. But I'm not going to be putting up press releases that are aspirational. So that's why I'd rather just work on it before we put out statements in public on press releases. But we are looking to announce new AI customers in the near term. I'm really excited by that. And there is also I did signal during my quarterly call last time that we are thinking about becoming vertically integrated only on the HPC side, not the Bitcoin mining side, because the Bitcoin mining side you can't model it out, but the HPC side you can. And so we want to be vertically integrated there, and we are in very serious talks right now to acquire that data center. So that could be a catalyst. I can't tell what the capital markets think are a catalyst, but I could just tell you what we have in mind and what we're working on. I do think that eventually capital markets will give us credit for our ETH stack. I think ETH ETF approvals, putting ETH in the spotlight and illuminating our unique value proposition because we're able to stake the ETH. I think that eventually the capital markets, that's going to come out. Of course, there's going to be further exahash growth. And, I just think there's just, this pregnant pipeline of the on the HPC side and the Ethereum play are two massive developments, including acquiring a data center, which will now put us in a position and the ability to have this hybrid approach of having our own infrastructure, yet at the same time being nimble and using our network globally of data centers, depending on what customers want.
And having a strong balance sheet to support your decisions.
Super strong balance sheet and zero debt. Zero debt.
That's zero. That's none.
That's important. As we all know, the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay liquid. So it's important to have a good balance sheet. We've covered a lot here. There's a lot of excitement, Sam. You're always a pleasure to talk to on the channel. I'll kick it back, Anthony, if you have any closing thoughts that we weren't able to get to, and then we can wrap it up for today.
Yeah, just one question on the current contract, the HPC in Iceland. There, are you seeing now all the learning from the early months and progressing that in a more positive way? I know you had an update in the first quarter where some of the income was returned. Are you seeing now any glitches that are taken away and you're seamlessly providing the service now?
Seamless. If it wasn't seamless, we wouldn't get the second tranche awarded so quickly.
Great. That's perfect. Thank you.
But I do think we're still flying under the radar. I think the CoreWeave deal with Core Scientific has been helpful in that it did wake up investors in the capital markets up in terms of the value proposition of HPC. So I was really glad to see that finally, there was some attention being given to this. And so people are now understanding this is not a fad. But Bit Digital is still flying under the radar, and that's fine because, as I said, time is our friend, and we're going to continue announcing contract expansions and HPC customers to diversify our customer base. And we show transparency every month on our production reports as to the revenue. So, I mean, we're doing all the things. Eventually, the markets will catch up.
I think it's just it's a case that you just do exactly what you need to do to keep progressing this, and eventually the market picks up. And we've seen even if you go back 7 or 8 months ago, we've seen some of the big miners who weren't so big 7 or 8 months ago really fly once the market sort of picks up on that. And this could be you know, at a time that Bit Digital go through that process as well. So you're having these conversations. You've got 20 firms coming up to asking questions, and they're predominantly about HPC. There's definitely an interest there. So we look forward to the updates on how you're progressing the contracts. And great to have you on the show again, Sam. It's always illuminating to get it direct and the passion that comes through. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. You guys, if you're still watching, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions for the team at Bit Digital, feel free to leave them below. We'll add them to the list next time. Sam, always a pleasure. Thanks so much. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you soon.